Welcome to Everybody Studios. This is Everybody in Charlotte, a series of 15-minute conversations highlighting the people of Charlotte making a difference. Sam Hart, welcome to Everybody Studios.
What's up? I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you for coming in, man. I generally start out by explaining to our audience, whoever these people may be, how we know each other. Which you and I probably have two different stories, but they're the same night.
Yes. Wild, man. It's like so for context, Counter is a restaurant that we do tribute dinners every other month, usually to an artist or an album. And we did an Outkast tribute dinner where I did not realize how many Outkast stands there were in Charlotte and the surrounding area. And that entire week, we fed 140 something people that menu that week. And out of all of them, there is not one person that was more hype about this dinner than you. Like, and it wasn't even close. Like, there were people that came in wearing like Outkast concert shirts from like 2000, 2001. And they were like, yeah, this is awesome. And you're like, yeah, so I saw them when no one else saw them when I was in high school. It's like, that's cool as shit, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, long time hardcore Outkast fan. When I got the email about that dinner, I was like, I might have been the first one.
Done.
That is hilarious. Yes, and that was the time we met. I was just so anxious to talk to you, and you were so busy. So I was like, but wait, I saw them when I was young. You're like, right. I got it, pal. Sit down.
Well, it's the way that I've described it before is like sometimes you're like the security guard to a celebrity because like everyone is so hype about what's going on, like the music, we have, like I tell our cooks this, and it's not until after they have their first tribute dinner, I tell them, I was like, you don't understand the gravitas to like some of these people, like with what we're playing.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to take this with such seriousness to make sure that you're living to, the like ethos of like this whole thing. And when we're during service, I've got like 16 people being like, yo, let me tell you that time that I ate hot dogs with Andre 3000. It's like, cool, bro. I've got to go cook your steak, man. But you genuinely had cool things to say. Some people are like, I don't care, like, but you had solid ones. That's why.
Well, the trivia game was the best. I mean, that when you, I had no idea that was happening, and when you said we're gonna do some trivia, I was like, oh,
game
God.
over. And no one got any questions right the rest of the week. I was like, can we just do this dinner again? And like Robbie just brings all of his friends. Can we do that again?
I loved it. God, it was so It was like at one point I looked over at my wife. I was like, this is the perfect night. It's the perfect night.
I appreciate
like
that.
The food, just everything about it.
We had fun.
It was awesome.
Had fun. We had a lot of fun.
All right. So my first question, which I love to ask, and a lot of times gets people squirming a little bit, but just because it's hard to think of the answer.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when I say the hardest you've ever laughed?
The hardest I've ever laughed.
Maybe not ever, just when you laugh really, 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 really hard.
I think the hardest that I've ever laughed. I can think of a very, very recent time. So one thing that, and I say this a lot at the restaurant and a lot to our guests and stuff like that, is, because we're finalists for a James Beard Award this year, and I was like, we might not cook the best food out of the nominees. We might not have the best looking restaurant. We might not have the best service, but I guarantee you we laugh more as a team than anyone else is nominated.
That's important. Very important.
But I don't remember what the joke was. I don't remember what the setup was, but we have a research and development director. His name's Ashley. He's also from here. Also went to West Charlotte. And
what's his last name?
Quick. He's a little bit older than you.
Okay.
And
I knew a guy named Ashley that went to West Charlotte. So
he was a wild child. He was a punk rocker, crazy guy.
Yeah.
So he made some sort of joke, and his laugh is priceless. It is like this wheezy wizard. Like, that's the best way that I can describe it.
I don't even know what that means.
And then my executive chef at Biblio, he is Puerto Rican, so he's loud, he's boisterous, he's excited, he's hype, and he just has this super loud, boisterous laugh. And whenever the two of them laugh, everyone in the entire restaurant just laughs. But then my chef de cuisine at Counter, he's from Seoul, South Korea, and he's got the most textbook Korean laugh. Like, I don't think I can describe it without coming across wrong.
Right.
But it's like so
You can't
perfect.
imitate it
So
either.
there was a moment that the three of them were in the prep kitchen together. Ashley cracked a joke. John started laughing. Ashley started laughing. Youngwon started laughing. And then just based upon that, I start wheezing. I almost get down to the ground. I am laughing so hard. And I'm like convinced I get a set of 6-pack abs after laughing this hard. But literally, we just laugh at each other all the time. But yeah, I love that question. I've
That's
never been
perfect.
asked that question before.
It's a good
Yeah,
one.
We have a good time. We have a good time.
I bet you do. I bet it, and it shows. You know, in just sitting there having dinner, you can tell the camaraderie, the friendship, the context. You all
We
know
probably
each other.
laugh too much during service, actually.
No, that's. I think we want to see that. It makes for an enjoyable evening.
That's awesome.
I like the. And I say this every time I ask this question, but I love the laughter with people where you don't have to say much.
Yeah.
Right? Just you can. I know what you're thinking, so it's funny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's the best. Great answer. All right, next question. What would you consider to be your superpower?
Ooh, I would say, well, some people will say that my superpower is remembering super random facts.
It's a fantastic
But
superpower.
it's just so random. But I would say that my superpower is being able to bring together a very diverse team where they have such drastically different paradigms, how they see the world. And sometimes that team doesn't understand why I hire someone or why I brought someone in. But then after time, they realize, oh, okay, because they see what we're doing in a different light than what I do. And so, instead of seeing all the decisions that we make and all of our menus in a very linear, one-sided and focused vision, we're kind of just seeing it from all angles. Like, we're encompassing the situation instead of narrowly pointing at it, which is the exact opposite of how most restaurants go. It's like, you've got the chef, you follow his vision, you do what he does, like, and each individual person needs to be a replica of that person.
Right.
And so we kind of just went the opposite of that. And, we love having such a drastically diverse and different network of humans working together to do what we do.
Well, I wouldn't want to put words in your mouth, but I assume that in doing in finding different perspectives and different ways that people look at the same thing, there also comes a talent or skill in seeing how they will work together.
Yeah.
Despite lots of differences.
I would say that. Yeah.
And that would be a superpower in itself.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because, like, when I was doing pop-ups for about 6 months, and then we signed the lease for Counter 1.0, which is at a previous location. And then 6 months after that, so a year after getting into the pop-up scene, was when we opened up the restaurant. And during that first year and a half, I tried to be Michael Jordan. I tried to do everything. I tried to just like run the show. And, just as Michael Jordan, in the mid 80s, he didn't win any championships because he was trying to do everything himself. And then, then I realized, no, it is so much more fun. It's so much more healthy, and it's more effective if instead I try and be Phil Jackson and I get, not only my Michael Jordan, my Scottie Pippen, and my Dennis Rodman, but, I also get my BJ Armstrong and my Tony Kukoc and like all these guys. Yes, I'm a huge basketball
I get
fan.
it.
But But yeah, and so I tell people all the time now, it's like, I've got the easiest job in the world. I get to be the Phil Jackson for a team of Michael Jordans. Like, this team is stacked. And I don't know, I don't know how all of them decided that, yeah, we want to go work at this one restaurant, but the talent pool that's inside of that building is stupid. Like, it's absolutely stupid.
Oh, I
So
love it.
I've got the easiest job in the whole world. So
Well, kudos to you for rounding up that talent
thank you.
and creating a place that people want to work. I mean, that's why, my wife and I, we travel, not the world, but we travel for food. We're those people. We're your ideal customer.
Yeah,
And that's why we're so drawn to your restaurant and your whole mission.
I appreciate that.
It's just outstanding, and it's new, and it's refreshing, and God, it's just fantastic.
Hopefully it's not a one-off. Hopefully, and I think what I've seen, social media has been, I think, out of every industry, I don't think, well, besides AI, we've seen that already, but like, I think out of every industry, there's not one that I think was impacted more from just the way that it functions than the restaurant and hospitality industry. Because before, the only way that you knew how a restaurant did things is either go there or buy its cookbook and hope that they wrote down the way that they did things right.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's instantaneous. You get to see how everyone's doing everything. You get to see who the players are. You get to follow them live, all of this stuff, right? And what makes it so unique is now you have so many people, especially on social media, making sure that the people who are making that product are being taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And before it was, pirates in a dungeon. And now it's okay, we need to make this industry something that's livable, something that you have a life outside of it as well, and that you enjoy showing up to. Just like, that's what you would hope in every job.
Right.
And
Support systems. Yeah.
so hopefully it continues to grow. Like, we're not the only people doing this. There's so many amazing restaurants, especially here in the States, that are doing that and making it happen.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so now a kind of charlatan question.
Ooh, okay, I'm down.
Because I know you're a charlatan.
Yes.
I always have to reframe this question because the original way that I wrote it was give me a like a hidden gem of Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
and then a couple people have been like, "Well, I don't really want to share that because
Well,
I don't want
that's
people
lame.
because I don't want people to ruin it."
Oh my gosh. I hate that shit. So
All right, good.
it's not like El Dorado and people are going to come in and like steal all the gold. Instead, you are going to promote somebody, and so I will answer this right off the get-go.
Well, that's the point of the question, damn it.
I absolutely adore in every sense of the way a place called Rinconcito Chilango, which is on Shamrock. It's catty corner to Crispy Banh Mi and like down the street, like across the street from Langvan.
Yep.
And it is without a doubt the best tacos in Charlotte. Like, it is so good, but they have so much other stuff. There's a market right there. And, I go there at least every other week and I adore it. And then what happened is I had this like big TV like broadcaster or whatever. She came in to do a spotlight on the restaurant and she goes, "So, I'm originally from XYZ and we have, a great, and diverse culture. And, I noticed that that also exists here in Charlotte, but it's just not showcased as much." And I was like, "Yeah, you're completely right."
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "Where can I find the best tacos?" And I gave her 4 spots, and one of them is Rinconcito Chilango. And she went and interviewed them on TV and mentioned that I was the one that told them about them.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 food bloggers and 4 other like just random people in Charlotte get pissed
Because you
They're like,
outed the secret.
why did you let that out? Why did you let that secret go? I was like, well, let's think about this. If all these people go to Rinconcito Chilango, they realize how good the tacos are, they make this place like thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of dollars at some point, right? Then at that point, they can open up more Rinconcito Chilangos. You have generational wealth and success for that family because the whole family works there.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you're actually doing a disservice by keeping it to yourself.
Right.
And what's funny is that like we had a lot of guests at counter, at the very beginning. They would come in a bunch, and then when they would come in, there was only 6 to 8 people dining there. We had days where we had to cancel service because no one booked, right? And then things started to get crazy, and we would have these guests come into a service that had 14, 16, 18 people, and they were like, we're so glad that you're successful, but we kind of wish that this kept a little secret. And it was only like 6 of us or 8 of us. And I was like, I get that,
I get it,
but I was only making $30,000 a year at that point, and I need to pay bills, and I want to have more people in here. So yeah, so don't keep well kept. Like when it comes to restaurants, don't keep secrets. Like tell people all the time about your favorite spots, so then they can grow, and we can have more of that versus more shit.
Yeah.
Because there's too much shit.
Yep. Perfect. Well said.
I didn't ask if I could cuss on air before.
No, we can cuss all you want.
Sweet. Awesome. It's hard for me to filter myself. It's hard to filter myself.
And then in the restaurant world, I mean, totally get it. You would want to promote it. You want to see expansion and success. Now, I guess where some people were saying they didn't want to share the secret were like, hidden little park benches or nature walks that they didn't want to get overrun with people.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right, so let's go to the meat of this conversation.
Sweet. Right as I start a vegetarian menu.
Exactly. I had a guest in here and I said that, and he was vegan, and I was like, oh God. He's
no, that's too great. That's too great.
Perfect. It was perfect. Vegetarian menu, huh?
Yeah, man.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what you do there.
It's got a lot of big plot twists.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
All right.
I got to tell you about my idea for a cookbook. I'm sure people do that all the time, but this one's fucking great. Anyway,
I'm down. I'm open for it.
All right. So the big question is where, and I'll preface it by saying, obviously you can choose wherever you want to go with this, because it's obvious what you're doing in your culinary space. But the question is, where in your life are you making a difference in the lives of others?
I love that. And this is kind of a great kind of segue into what we did last night, actually. So, with me, I didn't have the greatest youth growing up. I have the greatest mom of all time. Everyone at the restaurant calls her Saint Kelly. She's the absolute best. But she was dealt a rough set of cards. And also when I was a kid, I didn't help out that much because I was as I mentioned earlier, I was a terrible kid. And as an adult, I've looked back over my life and I was like, okay, what do I wish I knew about or had access to when I was younger? So from that, I can make a difference in kids' lives now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 partner 501c3s at Counter and Biblio, and the partner 501c3s are the relatives.
Nice.
Specifically, their on-ramp center, which is for 14 to 24-year-old youth. And at that point, you have generational change because a lot of those like 18 to 24-year-olds, they actually have kids.
Yeah.
But then the big one, and the one that I'll talk about, is Time Out Youth. Not only am I going to talk about because today's the beginning of Pride Month, but Time Out Youth is a crisis center and resource center for LGBTQ plus youth. And I didn't know, not only did I not know about Time Out Youth when I was younger, because they were around when I was a teenager, but I knew for a fact that if I knew about them and had access to them, that I would have utilized that so much. So one of my biggest goals in life is to tell everyone about this place, not only for their sake, but like they will then talk to, or their kids, or their nieces, nephews, whatever. And so yes, the restaurant is connected with them, but personally, I love like fundraising and doing work to assist them and work with them, and even talk to their youth about, if they need a job, like we can bring them in, whatever it may be. But but that is definitely a big passion in my heart, is just working with specifically youth. I used to teach kids how to cook for a little bit while I was working in Chicago. And, this generation, a lot of people like to poo-poo on generations and stuff. But
well, the older ones like to put on the
but
youngers.
the generation that's growing up right now, the ones that are in like elementary, middle school, and high school right now, they are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I love this generation. It is really cool because they're almost forcibly disconnecting from we were convinced that this generation was going to be so like just attached to tablets and like just fully zoned in on the internet and crap like that.
Yeah.
And yes, like TikTok is a thing and stuff like that. But what my experience has been is that this is almost like, in a way, like the hippie generation of like the 70s, where they don't care what you look like, where you're from, who you are. They want to create connections with everyone. And it's a very interconnected generation, and I love that. So I want to be more a part of that.
Well, let's go back to Time Out Youth.
Yes.
Because let's highlight that, because
Yes.
the whole point of this podcast is to find whatever you're passionate about most and
Yes.
highlight it for our listeners so we can
Hell yeah.
spread the support, spread the awareness.
Yes.
So let's dig a little more into that.
Sweet. All about it.
Well, just tell me more about Time Out Youth.
Yeah. So they have a center on Monroe Road. It's just right down the street from the greatest lunch that exists in Charlotte, which is Loopy's. And I will go to the grave with that.
The chili bowl.
Not only that, but it's got the best dessert in all of Charlotte. I will go to the grave on that too.
Okay.
The peach Coogan. Oh,
Coogan.
man, it's so good. All right, so
Can't wait
anywho,
to try this. We
so
got
Time Out
tacos
Youth,
and peach Coogan.
man, I go crazy.
All
So
right, all right.
on Monroe Road, there they have a ton of different resources for LGBTQ plus youth. I mean, they have everything from like a pantry where if they need food, they have it there. There's also like a laundry facility because some of these kids, they get kicked out of their home and they need clean clothes. They also need a place to stay, and they need, in a moment of crisis, something like honestly open arms to let them know that they're loved and they've got a place to go. But on top of the crisis department, they've got so much everyday resources. So they've got counseling, not only with like getting you in contact with therapy and like mental health, but also like if you need to find a job, if you need to find a place to stay. Also they've got a library filled with LGBTQ plus writing and books and things like that, because one thing that's really rough specifically with I'll pretty much say specifically with private education is that it's very centered, it's very focused, and it's very like, we're only going to show you this, right?
Yeah.
And but then also they have events all the time that are just circled around creating friendship and bonding and realizing that you're not alone, and it's like this is not just a one person journey, and there's always something going on. Like, I have never gone to that center and there wasn't something going on, which that's the coolest thing. Being so open, being so available, being ever present. That's the coolest thing about them.
Wow.
So yeah, really,
Wow.
really great spot.
I love it. All right. So how does that ripple out into the community? I mean, I see it more as just a mental health ripple. You know, the healthier people are and the more accepting and loving of themselves is going to ripple out just among.
Yeah, I mean, hurt people,
Sure.
love people, and I think the more love you put into the community and especially in your tight-knit, close community, that creates, as you said, that ripple effect. And if you have a community that a part of it, even if it's a small piece, if you have that small piece that feels left out, that feels like it's not a part of the community, if it feels hated while everyone's being loved, that's going to create a ripple effect of sadness and hurt.
Right.
And so, making sure that the entire community feels and knows that it's a part of the entire community. That's super important.
Powerful work, man. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's tell our listeners how we can support, participate, donate, be a part of.
Heck yeah. So obviously money's great. You know, that's, we had an auction last night. So we held a dinner for Time Out Youth last night. All the proceeds, like literally every single dollar, we donated everything. Every single dollar went to Time Out Youth. And I was like, you know what? We're only donating $6,200, man. It's like, let's get to five digits. And so I had 3 really awesome back vintages of really high level Bordeaux. I was like, you know what? Let's auction off a private dinner for 4 people at your house. I'll come over, I'll cook, and we'll open up one of these bottles. And depending on how high this goes, that's the bottle that we'll choose. And I was pushing this last night. I was like, if we get to $7,000
just for the dinner,
if we get to $7,000 for this 4-person dinner, I will bring a bottle of 1998 Petrus that I just got, that's the nicest bottle of wine in the world. Like, it is the most expensive bottle upon release. Like, I personally paid almost $5,000 for that bottle of wine, right?
Holy.
Yeah. So we get to 7,000. We donated $13,200 last night, and I'm super hype about it. But I sat the team down, which everyone that was at that dinner knows how awesome Time Out Youth is, because they've been a part of Time Out Youth before, or they've heard about it a bunch, or whatever. But this team, there's a slight disconnect because they make food. The food goes out to the guest. The guest knows Time Out Youth. They don't have a direct connection with Time Out Youth yet. And I sat everyone down, and I was like, You probably saw the check that said $13,200. But what you don't know, and I don't even know, is who that's going to impact.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, kind of that pay it forward sense of, you don't know who that person's going to impact as well. So yes, there is something great about funds, right? Because Time Out Youth, they're a 501c3. They got to have funding in order to keep their lights on. They got to have the funds to bring in people to do these events and stuff with them. But also, I think, in the spirit of Time Out Youth, I think the ultimate goal and the biggest way that you can help is not only supporting Time Out Youth itself, but also like having conversations with family, friends, whether they're youth or not, just being fully open and accepting and loving, and, showcasing that you can be a resource and, be a part of their lives no matter who they are, and really, assisting and promoting them, and not just do it in June when it's, Pride Month, do it whenever. But yeah, funds are great. If you have, a business that, you're looking to hire people, come to Time Out Youth and tell the work counselor there that, hey, we've got positions in a welcoming environment. If you're in the mental health space, offer up your services. There's a lot about volunteering time as well, and getting hands-on with things. A lot of people are afraid sometimes to get into like the mess.
Yeah.
Because we have this false sense of we're going to make the mess messier, or the mess is going to find its way into my life and my life is going to get messy.
Mm-hmm.
But the mess is where the coolest stuff happens.
That's right.
That's where the memories happen. The person who was in a bubble and didn't do anything their whole life has no good stories.
There's no stories.
It's like you gotta get messy, if you're going to have fun. So.
Absolutely, or grow.
Yeah, or grow. Period. Yeah, I recently learned about this. It's really cool. It's the pendulum of greatness, or the pendulum of success. Pendulum of success, and it's this whole thing about how you just grab, the lives of 100 super successful people, you will not be able to find, you might find one, but you're probably not going to find one of them that didn't have some serious negative moment of their life or serious mess that they had to go through.
Yeah.
And like, you can look at any text, you can look at any historical figure, anyone currently, there's always a moment where they like shit hit the fan, right?
Yeah.
And and you have the opportunity to be a part of being in the person's life in the moment where they're in that mess and assist the pendulum in getting back to that super successful, great moment too. Yeah.
Well, to take that even further, because this is my world, every human goes through shit.
Yes.
How you handle that is what determines how your future is going to go.
110%.
Now, to your point, if you're there to support someone while they're going through their shit, they're going to go through their shit the healthy way.
Yeah.
And it's going to benefit them, and they're going to grow, and they're going to learn, and they're going to become more insightful. And whereas, unfortunately, the majority of people in this world don't have that support and don't have the history or the mirroring to even watch to learn how to go through tough stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I mean, I'm a parent, and that's all we talk about. It's just the healthy way to deal with shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
Yeah. Be like, do you have a son or daughter?
I have a daughter.
You're like, hey, daughter, sorry that we left you this, like, heaping fire of shit of a planet. Best of luck to you.
Yeah.
We'll help you out.
Good luck.
Like, oh, man.
Heaping.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So I'm gonna put these in the description on the video page, but let's give the URL or website of Timeout Youth as well as the first one you mentioned.
Yeah, so it's timeoutyouth.org.
Timeoutyouth.org.
And then the relatives.
The relatives, right?
I am not positive what their website is off the top of my head, but their Instagram is a great way to reach out to them. But the relatives and then the on-ramp center with the relatives, fantastic. I'll briefly talk about them too. I mean, they are a massive resource center. I mean, they do a lot of mental health guidance and coaching, but also, in moments where youth are in the most dire of straits. I mean, they literally started off as a crisis home where people would come in and their number one priority. And Nick, who is one of the big people there, I love how he says this. He was like, our number one focus is the youth and keeping families together. I think a lot of people, are afraid that when a kid's going through a tough time or they're dealing with a tough situation at home, that the only answer is separation, and that's not their focus. No, it's we want to figure out a way to make a happy together community in the home. But if someone needs a place to stay, if they need assistance in finding a place to stay, whatever resources necessary. But then they also have education and daily workshops and stuff like that for youth at the on-ramp center. They do awesome stuff. But yeah, Timeout Youth, the relatives, hit them up. They're amazing. They're making some outrageously awesome changes in this community, and progressing us forward.
Perfect. Relatives it's on East Boulevard, isn't it?
So they've got two. They got two spots. So yes, they've got the one around this area right here on East Boulevard, and then the on-ramp center is actually on Freedom.
Okay.
So it is in the heart of the biggest need.
Yeah.
Which that's how a 501c3 is not messing around.
Yeah.
Is when they're like,
Trenches.
we're going to the heart of what the situation is. It drove me insane at how many 501c3s in Chicago were outside of the areas that needed the most help.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, get
your
in
hands
the
dirty.
trenches, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Get down in there. We had a list of after school programs that we could volunteer for or work with when I was teaching kids how to cook, and I noticed that not one in the South Side had been chosen in 3 years. I was like, what's the point of us doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
And so spent a lot of time in that area. It's and there's so much more good people and good stuff happening in that area in Chicago than anywhere else. But that's a whole nother tangent. But yeah.
All right. So two more.
Yes. That's my
Nominate.
answer. No, it's like that's the answer for the next question. Kidding.
Nominate someone to sit in that seat.
Wendy Hickey.
Wendy Hickey.
So Wendy Hickey is one of my heroes. I love her so much. We worked together at Adams Outdoor Advertising when I was in that space, and she started up something called Art Pop Street Gallery.
Okay.
And so if you've ever been driving on the road and you saw a billboard that had local art on it, that was her idea. That was her brainchild. And she figured out a way to put local artists on the largest gallery possible and the largest canvas, which is billboards.
Billboards.
She
Holy
is
cow, that's
she
so
is
cool.
badass. She is so badass.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. All right, Wendy Hickey, you've been called.
Yeah, she's probably not doing too well right now because she's a Packers fan and Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, but
Oh well, too bad, Wendy.
she'll be fine.
3 words to remember you by.
3 words to remember me by. Whew. Oh man, I got to figure out how to turn 4 words into 3. Oh,
Limited.
here
to
we go.
3.
Here we go. Find better problems.
Find better problems.
Yeah, find better problems. That's like my mantra. Is like every day you find better problems than you had yesterday. Because you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have shit.
It's inevitable.
Just have better
Just
ones.
find better ones.
Just have better ones.
It's beautiful. That's a T-shirt.
We should make T-shirts.
It's a T-shirt. Sam Hart, thank you for coming to Everybody's Studios and
Robbie
being a part
Shaw,
of Everybody in
thank you so
Charlotte.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Of course.
Loved the conversation. Thank you for coming to the Outcast dinner.
Many more to come.
We've got some crazy stuff on the way, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We will promote all that you spoke about as well as your restaurants.
Thank you. I know they'll be super pumped.
Yeah.
I am Sam Hart, and I am everybody.